I would like to call the October regular meeting of the McLean County Board Justice Committee to order. We have 5 members present. Member Martin had notified us that he was going to be unavoidably absent. And of course, Member Robustelli has resigned from the board. So we have 5 present, 1 absent. That is a quorum. Our first order of business is to approve the minutes of our August 18th, 2020 special meeting and the September 1, 2020 regular meeting. Is there a motion to approve those minutes? Moved by Member Bloomfield. Is there a second? Seconded by Member Schaefer. Any questions, comments, or discussion? Member Soldner.
I was just seconding the motion.
Okay. We had a second from Member Schaefer, a split second ahead of you. Thank you. Any discussion about the minutes? Hearing none, I think we're ready to call the roll. Ms. Morlock. I will be voting on virtually all matters this afternoon, including this one. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Member Schaefer.
Yes.
Member Wendt.
Yes.
Member Bloomfield.
Yes.
Member Soldner.
Yes.
Chairman Gordon.
Yes. Good afternoon, Ms. Rodriguez. Do we have any appearances by members of the public today?
Good afternoon, Chairman Gordon and members. No, we do not have any public comment today.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We'll move then to departmental matters, starting off with Coroner Kathy Yoder.
Hi, good afternoon. That's not me coughing, that's Julie.
No. So, sorry to see you.
Hi, good afternoon.
Good afternoon to you. The coroner's office brings no items for action to the Justice Committee this afternoon. The monthly report is on pages 5 through 7 in our packet. Ms. Yoder, do you have any particular item or items that you would wish to call to our attention?
Well, the exciting thing is we will be done by the end of this week with our new morgue, so with our new cooler. So thank you to the board for approving that last year for this year's budget. And it is, US Mechanical has done a great job. We'll have pictures if you want them. It's just amazing. And the maintenance department here and the electrical team that they've used, they've done an excellent job. So thank you to the county, thank you to the board for approving it, and it'll be up and running by the end of the week.
Good to know. Appreciate that information. Are there any questions for members of the committee for Coroner Yoder? Hearing none, thank you. Oh, I'm sorry, Member Schaefer, go ahead.
Yeah, can you give us an update on the suicide counts for this year compared to last year? Because of COVID, I didn't know if maybe you were seeing an increase in that because of, you know, stresses and anxieties and things.
Okay, just give me a minute. So I had put out an article earlier that there were more in surrounding counties. Now, if you look at our total throughout the year, they are similar. They're higher than what they were last year at this time. So last year in 2019, there were a total of 18 suicides. Right now we're at a total of 17, so that it has increased over last year. In 2015, there were, I'm running back through my stats. In 2015, there were 23 suicides. In 2016, there were 25. So I wouldn't say we're above and I wouldn't say we're below. But I do think the mental health of everyone is so important, and we don't put out the manner of how ones may do it, but the sad part is the lethality. So the ways have changed. If that makes sense.
Thank you for that information.
Thank you.
As tough as it is. Anything else from members of the committee for Coroner Yoder?
I will say one thing about suicide in the elderly. So we have had COVID-related suicides in the elderly, meaning the isolation of the elderly, which I understand it's health and safety and all of that. But because of the physical isolation from family members, we have had an elderly take their own life related to the social isolation. Just so that's something to think about.
It surely is, and I'm sure that at least two other members of this committee who also serve on the health committee might keep that in mind as an item for the health committee to keep in mind as well. Member Schaefer, I don't think I'm preempting anything you might say on that. I'm sure you agree.
No, I think that we need to be aware of that because going into winter and also flu season and much more isolation, I think that a lot of the elderly are going to feel much more isolated, especially if any more restrictions get put in place, if we have spikes and stuff like that. So, that's kind of one of the reasons I kind of asked that question, to see if there was an impact there.
Well, thanks to both of you. I appreciate that. We all do. If there is nothing else for Coroner Yoder, I want to thank you for joining us and giving us that information. We'll be ready to move on to Sheriff Sandage. And we have one item for action coming from the Sheriff's Department this afternoon. Item B1A, request approval of an interlocal agreement between the City of Bloomington, Illinois, the Town of Normal, and the County of McLean, the 2020 Burn Justice Assistance Grant Program Award, found on pages 8 and 9 in our packet, and I'll entertain a motion to approve. Moved by Member Bloomfield. Is there a second? Seconded by Member Soldner. Sheriff, would you care to, first of all, welcome. Good to see you. Would you care to tell us a little more about this, although I think we're familiar with it and from past years? Go ahead, please.
Yes, thank you. We're more or less a pass-through on this. These grants are given out actually by UCR Violent Crime Statistics. So Bloomington qualified for this amount. We're fortunate that we didn't qualify for anything given our violent crime statistics. So as in years past, we're acting as a pass-through for this.
Thank you. How many years has the Burn Justice Assistance Grant Program Award been ongoing? It's a number of years.
I know at least 6.
Okay. Fair enough. Are there other questions for Sheriff Sandage from other members of the committee? Your turn. Anything else you'd care to add, sir?
Not on that, no.
Okay, very good. If we're ready to vote, I've already indicated the chair will vote. Hearing no objection, Ms. Morlock, would you call the roll?
Member Schaefer,
Yes.
Member Went,
Yes.
Member Bloomfield,
Yes.
Member Soldner,
Yes.
Chairman Gordon.
Yes. Items for information from the Sheriff's Office, the monthly statistical report, pages 10 through 13. Sheriff Sandage, would you care to highlight or spotlight, focus, anything in that report?
If you'll take a look, you can't see there's been a little quiver in the numbers. That's just our ability to get inmates to the Department of Corrections and out of our facility. So that what would account for the lowering of the daily population.
I assume that works to the advantage of the jail in a number of respects.
It most definitely does.
Good, good. Anything else that you would care to direct our attention to?
No, sir, that's all.
Okay, are there questions from other members of the committee for Sheriff Sandage? Member Schaefer.
I asked this last night of Suzanne on the number of COVID cases you have in the jail, and she mentioned that there were none. And are you still continuing to do the testing that you were doing before?
As far as testing of inmates, no, we're not. Only those that present symptoms.
But you're quarantining those that may come in?
Yes, each inmate that's brought in is segregated for 14 days, yes.
If I may, I'd like to pose a kind of a follow-up question, a similar question with regard to jail staff. I'm sure you're being very careful there too.
Yes, all of our employees are still getting screened every day when they come to work for temperature and asked health-related questions.
Good. Member Went, please go ahead.
I just want to congratulate the sheriff on the fine job he's doing and keep up the good work, Sheriff. Thank you.
Thanks, George.
Member Solder.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I was going to ask the sheriff how the transfer of inmates to the state facility, is it still going on now? Has there been any more glitches, or where we're at on that?
No, initially there were a few glitches. A few times we took inmates up and didn't get them delivered, but a lot of that process has been ironed out, and here as of late we've had no issues.
Thank you. Any other questions for Sheriff Sandage at this time? Hearing none. Sheriff, thank you for joining us. Appreciate the information, and the action item will move forward.
All right, have a good night.
And you too. Thank you. We turn next to State's Attorney Don Knapp, who has now joined us, or at least he's turned on his screen. Maybe he was there already. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon, George. How are you?
All right, sir. How are you?
I'm all right.
Good. We have no action items from the State's Attorney's Office. We do have items for information, the caseload and forfeiture fund reports on pages 14 and 15. Is there anything to be added to that, Mr. Knapp? And
No, I would just draw the committee's attention to one thing that jumped out at me is, and we see it on a daily basis, our abuse and neglect filings are up. In fact, we have through September already equaled the number of abuse and neglect petitions that we filed in all of 2019. So I think we've talked about it before as we've noticed the numbers going up, that probably a combination of increased efforts by DCFS that much of the time bring these cases to our attention, and the consequences of home isolation and quarantine as well. But that number jumps out. We've talked before about DUIs look like they will be down 30%, 25 to 30%, and that probably tracks with bars being closed for as long as bars were closed. But other than that, felonies and misdemeanors look to be status quo from years past. So with that, I'll take any questions you have.
thank you for that information. Member Soldner has a question. Go ahead, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Knapp, can you give us some idea on the cannabis? Have we had any cannabis violations, either minor or major?
Well, we've had plenty of cannabis violations. We still see cannabis trafficking, cannabis brought in illegally, bought outside of the now state legal process. Regarding whether or not people have purchased cannabis legally and then been an issue that, or had issues with the law that are brought to our attention, I think I'm aware, I remember one case of an illegal transportation, but by and large, the legal cannabis has not been an issue that we have seen for resale.
Thank you. Other questions for State's Attorney Knapp? Hearing none, thank you very much. And we look forward to seeing you on down the road here.
Take care.
You too. I'd like to invite Mike Donovan, pardon me, to the court from Court Services. Court Services brings one item for action to the committee this afternoon. Excuse me. Item D1A, request approval of an agreement with the Center for Youth and Family Services to provide project management for implementation of a comprehensive assessment team, pages 16 through 20 in our packet. Do I have a motion to approve? Moved by Member Schaefer. Is there a second? Seconded by Member Bloomfield. Mr. Donovan, would you care to elaborate just to be sure we have a complete understanding of what the proposal is about?
Sure, Chairman Gordon. This is just a contract for the second year with Center for Youth and Family Solutions for this BJA CAT grant. We're on schedule with everything and the timeline's going well. So we're just having this contract for the second year.
Very good. Any questions for Mr. Donovan about this contract proposal? Hearing none, if we are ready to vote, I will ask Ms. Morlock. There she is. Would you please call the roll then?
Member Schaefer,
Yes.
Member Went,
Yes.
Member Bloomfield,
Yes.
Soldner,
Yes.
Chairman Gordon.
Yes.
Passes.
The information, Court Services Adult and Juvenile Division statistics found on pages 21 through 26. Mike, is there anything particularly there that we should be aware of?
No, just that as court activity picks up, we're getting, not only in our jurisdiction, but other counties, we're getting, our intake numbers are coming back up to what they were prior to COVID. So everything is good.
All right. Questions for Mr. Donovan about the information just referenced? Hearing none. Thank you very much. Mr. Donovan, be well.
Thank you much.
Okay,
Talk to you
sir.
later.
All right. We turn now to Molly Evans, the Director of the Children's Advocacy Center. And welcome to our committee meeting this afternoon. Good to see you.
Good to see you also. Thank you.
The CAC brings 3 items for action to us this afternoon. Item E1A, request approval of a grant agreement between the Children's Advocacy Center of Illinois and the Children's Advocacy Center of McLean County, pages 27 through 91 in our packet. And I'll entertain a motion on that. Moved by Member Soldner. Is there a second? Seconded by Member Bloomfield. Ms. Evans, would you care to summarize the highlights of this proposal? I believe this is a continuation, is it not?
Actually, this is a new grant. We were just notified of this. I'm sorry.
I was just saying I'm confusing it with something else. Please go ahead.
Sure. We do have an additional grant with the Children's Advocacy Center of Illinois. So you're not all that confused. This is a new grant that our statewide chapter wrote for this year. They essentially are serving as a pass-through. These are federal funds that will be coming from the Illinois Criminal Justice Information Authority. These are coronavirus supplemental funds. So these are going to be used at the CAC. The grant runs from October 1st of 20 to September 30th of 21. We're going to be able to use these funds to help pay for some equipment, supplies, some rent and utilities in our satellite locations. So it really came out of nowhere, but is something that we're going to take full advantage of. So.
Very good. Are there questions for Ms. Evans about this proposal? Would I be correct in assuming that these funds show up in a different place in our packet today with the budget lines that we will see later?
Yes. They
Figured
will
they
have to
did.
be split. I'll have to do a budget amendment once I get, all of this has happened very quickly over the last 2 weeks. So once I'm able to really determine how it's going to be split between 20 and 21, we'll get a budget amendment done and get things in place for next year also.
Very good. Thank you very much. Any other questions for Ms. Evans on this proposal? If not, I believe we're ready to vote. Ms. Morlock, would you call the roll?
Member Schaefer,
Yes.
Member Went,
Yes.
Member Bloomfield,
Yes.
Member Soldner,
Yes.
Chairman Gordon.
Yes. Item E1B, request approval of an agreement between Illinois Court-Appointed Special Advocates and CASA of McLean County. That agreement is found on pages 92 through 148 in our packet, and I'll entertain a motion on that. Moved by Member Schaefer. Is there a second? Seconded by Member Soldner. Here again, Ms. Evans, would you go ahead and summarize this agreement for us?
Sure. This is also a new grant. Again, our statewide chapter, Illinois CASA, wrote for this. So it's the same program through the Coronavirus Supplemental Fund. And what Illinois CASA is focusing on is educational advocacy for the CASA programs. So they were very specific in what we could do with these funds. And that will lead us to the next item, which is a contract position for an educational liaison.
Very good. Thank you. Are there questions on this proposal to be directed to Ms. Evans? Hearing none, I'll ask Ms. Morlock to call the roll.
Member Schaefer,
Yes.
Member Went,
Yes.
Member Bloomfield,
Yes.
Member Soldner,
Yes.
Chairman Gordon.
Yes. The last action item to come before us this afternoon from the Children's Advocacy Center, item E1C, request approval of an agreement between McLean County CASA and Catherine Gillespie, pages 149 through 152. Do I have a motion? Moved by Member Bloomfield. Is there a second? Seconded by Member Soldner. Ms. Evans, this is the item you just referred to a moment ago.
Yes, a portion of the funds in that grant will go for this contract. Catherine Gillespie has 40+ years in public education. She's a retired teacher, retired vocational coordinator with District 87. She's also a sworn-in CASA. So when we got these funds, we thought about who would be great for this role, and she was the first to come to mind. So we think that, we understand we will only have her during this grant period, but we think that a lot of good can come from this.
Very good. Are there questions for Ms. Evans? Questions or comments? I gather we are ready to vote. Ms. Morlock, your turn.
Member Schaefer,
Yes.
Member Went,
Yes.
Member Bloomfield,
Yes.
Member Soldner,
Yes.
Chairman Gordon.
Yes. We have the CAC's monthly statistics and general report found on pages 153 through 157. Anything particularly that you would like to call our attention to, Ms. Evans?
I don't, but I'd be happy to answer any questions if you have any.
Do we have any questions for Ms. Evans? Thank you very much. We will talk later.
Thank
this
you.
afternoon. Thank you. We move now to Mr. Everhart, the Circuit Clerk of McLean County. Good afternoon, sir. How are you?
Good afternoon. I'm doing well. Thank you.
Very good. The Circuit Clerk's office brings one item for action to us this afternoon. Item F1A, request approval of an extended leave request for an employee found on page 158. We have already received communication from the county administrator's office. If there is any discussion, that will have to be held in closed session. So that my first question to members of the committee is, do we have any discussion on this proposal? Nor do I.
Thank you.
Hearing none. Ms. Morlock, would you call the roll, please?
I need a motion on that. I didn't have a first or a second. I'm sorry, George.
You are correct, and I stopped counting the times you've reminded me of that. Thank you very much. We need a motion, and I hope we will get one momentarily. Moved by member Bloomfield. Do we have a second? Seconded by member Solomon. At this point, we are ready to vote. One of these days, I'm going to get this right consistently.
Well, you had to remind me to turn on my microphone last night, so we're even.
Thank you, but please go ahead with the roll call.
Member Schaefer,
Yes.
Member Went,
Yes.
Member Bloomfield,
Yes.
Member Soldner,
Yes.
Chairman Gordon.
Yes. That will move forward then, Mr. Everhart. Your monthly statistical reports are found on pages 159 through 166 in our packet. Is there anything there that you would like to call our attention to particularly?
Nothing. No, sir.
All right. Questions for Mr. Everhart? Okay. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. We turn now to Ms. Barnes, Public Defender, who brings two items for action, as well as monthly information. Pardon me, item G1A, request approval of a resolution amending the funded full-time equivalent positions resolution for 2020, Fund 0001, Department 0021, Public Defender, on pages 167 and 168 in our packet. And I'll entertain a motion. Moved by member Soldner, seconded by member Schaefer. Ms. Barnes, would you care to highlight anything in particular on this proposal?
Yes, I would. Years ago, I wouldn't have had to make this request. This shows the progress that McLean County is actually making in diverting our citizens out of the prison system. Because of our specialty courts and the progress of those courts, I now have a need for my caseworker to be assigned as a full-time attorney in that division. She would have approximately 120 clients per year. Her time would mostly be dedicated in not only advocating for them, but making sure that all of their other collateral needs are met as well. As I've stated in my executive summary, she's in a unique position where all of our conversations with the clients in these specialty courts are privileged. They can feel free to talk to her and disclose things that they would not otherwise disclose, knowing that she will still advocate for them no matter what is being said in those privileged conversations. So this person is still a member of the team, active as a member of the team, yet strongly advocating for our clients.
Thank you for that information. Questions for Ms. Barnes on item G1A? Hearing none, I believe then we've had a motion and a second and we're ready to vote.
Member Schaefer,
Yes.
Member Went,
Yes.
Member Bloomfield,
Yes.
Member Soldner,
Yes.
Chairman Gordon.
Yes. Item G1B, request approval of a contract between Craig D. Queen, Special Public Defender, and the Public Defender's Office on pages 169 through 174. I'll entertain a motion. Moved by member Bloomfield, seconded by member Schaefer. Ms. Barnes, anything in particular in this contract proposal that we should be aware of?
Nothing really. This is a contract that I've had for previous years. However, it was held with William Mart. Because of family reasons, he had to go ahead and give up his contract a little early. So that's why I'm presenting this before the other contracts are presented. And because I have spoken with Craig Queen and he wants to continue with this contract for next year, we're just asking for it through the end of 2021 as well.
Very good. Any questions for Ms. Barnes about this contract proposal? If not, Ms. Morlock, would you go ahead?
Ms. Schaefer,
Yes.
Member Went,
Yes.
Member Bloomfield,
Yes.
Member Stolner,
Yes.
Member Gordon, sorry, Chairman Gordon.
I'll say yes, even though you, well, never mind. Yes.
Thank you.
No hesitation. Thank you very much. Ms. Barnes, your caseload report is found in our packets on pages 175 through 177. Anything that you would particularly like to call our attention to?
No, not at this time. The attorneys are working diligently and handling the cases that quite a few were held over in the traffic misdemeanor division, but because Judge Eves worked so well with the state's attorney's office as well as with my office, they zoomed quite a bit for court appearances, that there's no real true backlog in our system. So everything's going fine.
Very good. Any questions for Ms. Barnes?
If I could, please, though, give a shout out to Camille Rodriguez. When I was presenting the information about the executive summary about the new, not the reclassification, she was quite busy because of everything that was going on with the COVID in our county. But she did make sure that she extended herself after hours. She talked to me through it all, and she was always open to what I had to say. And I just want to really just publicly thank her for her time and efforts that she extended to this effort.
Well, thank you, and we appreciate Ms. Rodriguez's efforts in this respect, and a lot of others too.
Yes.
Thank you. Ms. Barnes, don't go away too far.
Okay, I won't.
You're coming up shortly when we get into the budget. We turn now to Ms. Rodriguez, the county administrator, who has a number of items. First of which is H1A, request approval of critical hire requests on page 178. Good afternoon, Ms. Rodriguez. Please go ahead.
Thank you, Chairman Gordon, and the membership. I present 3 requested critical hires. They are detailed on page 178 of your packet, and I know that either I or any of the department heads present could expound on the need. So we'd be happy to answer any questions.
Okay, thank you. I first need a motion on item H1A. Moved by Member Schaefer, seconded by Member Bloomfield. Are there any questions for Ms. Rodriguez on this proposal? We're voting on the 3 as a set. Any questions? If not, Ms. Morlock, would you go ahead?
Member Schaefer,
Yes.
Member Went,
Yes.
Member Bloomfield,
Yes.
Member Stolner,
Yes.
Chairman Gordon.
Yes. We now move into the budget portion of this afternoon's meeting. And before we get started, 3 of us were directly involved in yesterday's health committee meeting, which also involved budget. What I'm going to propose, and I will ask both Ms. Rodriguez and members of the committee for your response to this. The first proposal, H1B, does not have any breakout items. I believe we should vote on that after we have had the discussion that we're going to have on the Public Defender Services Program. H1C, coming from the Children's Advocacy Center, has 3 different elements, which I hope we will discuss individually, but then we'll get a motion to start and then vote again as a set, C1, C2, C3. And following the same pattern with H1D, a number of different items coming from the circuit clerk's office. Actually, we have H1D 1 through D6. We can move those as a set and discuss them individually, and again, take a vote when we're done with that. And the same thing for the Court Services Department, item H1E. Is that satisfactory to the members of the committee and to county administration? Any problem with that? Okay, apparently not. Good. Thank you. And Chairman Schaefer, I will freely confess to imitation being, well, I thought it went well yesterday at Health, and I thought it was a good way to proceed, so I thought I would present that to the committee. We will start with H1B, which is request approval of fiscal year 2021 recommended budget for the General Fund 0001, Public Defender Department 0021, Public Defender Services Program 0023, found on pages 179 through 182 in our packet. And we will begin. I will entertain a motion for approval. Moved by Member Bloomfield. Is there a second? Seconded by Member Schaefer. Let me start then by asking Ms. Barnes if there is any particular item on pages 179 through 182 that you would care to call to our attention. And then there will be opportunity for questions about those budget items from members of the committee.
Nothing in particular. I have always made sure I maintain an eye towards giving my clients everything they need, as well as an eye towards the budget as well. I think we've been doing a pretty good job at it. If there are any outside sources, of course, I would utilize those first. As far as court matters are concerned, a lot of our clients who are in GRI, which is not guilty by reason of insanity or have any mental health issues, I make sure that I get approval from the court that those fees are to come out of the court's budget and not my own. So although I still, of course, need that number or that amount in my budget, I'm always very careful about that as well.
Thank you. Questions for Ms. Barnes related to the budget worksheet report for the public defender? Member Schaefer, go ahead.
The reclass that we just approved, did that impact, excuse me, the budget here or not?
Is that one included in this budget? I don't think it does right now because this is just the approval time. So I don't think we budgeted for it at that time. And we don't put in the salary designation as well. Admin will add that salary designation.
May I, Chairman Gordon?
Yes, please go ahead.
County administration would add that as part of the collaboration with Public Defender Barnes, we did analyze the impact, and it's a minimal impact for this year, and then next year would be reflected in the budget. We will do the appropriate budget amendments, but we can't do that ahead of your approval. So, yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
And I was going to ask if that might involve a budget amendment at some point, not too far down the road from the way it sounds.
Correct.
That's fine. Okay, very good. Other questions for Ms. Barnes? Member Solder.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This is probably directed more to Ms. Rodriguez, but let me ask my question. At the beginning of the expense items dealing with full-time employee salary and Medicare and life insurance, when you look at the 2020 adopted, for instance, the full-time employee was 1.4 million. The actual ended up being 980,000. And I was just wondering what the rationale, what the reasoning was, because those expenses were so much different than the actual amount that was budgeted.
Yes, thank you. Thank you for that question. At this point, the 980,000 and some change there is reflective of a year-to-date number and not the final for this particular fiscal year. So you'll see that number increase as we navigate throughout the rest of this year.
Okay, that makes sense. Thank you.
Yeah.
Further questions at this time? If not, Ms. Barnes, anything else that you would care to focus on before we take a vote?
No, sir.
All right. I believe we're ready to vote. Ms. Morlock, would you please call the roll?
Member Schaefer,
Yes.
Member Went,
Yes.
Member Bloomfield,
Yes.
Member Soldner,
Yes.
Chairman Gordon.
Yes. We move now to item H1C. Request approval of fiscal year 2021 recommended budget for the Children's Advocacy Center Fund 0129, Children's Advocacy Center Department 0062, including items C1, C2, C3, the CAC, the Children's Advocacy Program 0021, CASA Program 0097, and the Multi-County Services Program 0101. I'll entertain a motion for approval of item H1C. Moved by Member Soldner, seconded by Member Bloomfield. I'll invite Ms. Evans back to the virtual podium, as it were. Thank you. Let me start with H1C1, Ms. Evans. Is there anything in particular there that you want to call to our attention?
No, I did prepare a PowerPoint for you guys. I didn't know if we were going to be sharing that this evening or not.
Yes.
We are sharing it. Go ahead.
Okay. So I will just walk through this. I did break it down by the department, which consists of the Children's Advocacy Center, CASA, and also our multi-county. So the CAC has 5 full-time staff, 1 contractual, and our facility dog Jock. CASA program has 4 full-time employees, and then our multi-county budget, that is surrounding expenses for our satellite centers located in DeWitt County, and also Livingston County. And we have 2 full-time staff that are under that sub-department. Next slide. So this I thought was just a good visual of our breakdown in revenue. So as you can see, we rely heavily on state and federal grants. So we are constantly looking for grants and working hard with our grantors to ensure that we're getting this revenue yearly. That is followed by general property tax, our local grants and contributions, CAC court fees, and then funds transferred. I wanted just to share, if I could, with the committee, just a little bit about each of our programs so that you would have a better understanding of exactly what we do at the Children's Advocacy Center. Essentially, we're a safe and friendly place for kids to be brought when there's been a concern of abuse or neglect. We work as a multidisciplinary team on all cases. So that means we're working closely with CAC staff, local law enforcement, DCFS, the state's attorney's office, and the Pediatric Resource Center on all of our cases. We provide a number of different services that are listed there for you, all in which are tailored to meet the unique needs of the child. So not every case obviously looks the same. We're going to do what we need to do to really tailor that towards that child. All services at the CAC are free, and we are accredited by the National Children's Alliance, and that helps us a lot in receiving those federal funds. We just went through our reaccreditation process just this past month. So just to kind of put into perspective, in 2019, we interviewed a total of 336 kids here in McLean County. So as far as our revenue is concerned, under this sub-department comes in the general property tax. CAC court fees, we have seen a significant decrease in those over the past year. That has been something statewide with CACs have been hurt pretty hard. I was just on a call that I think combined it's over $1 million loss for all the CACs throughout the state. But we do have the grants. So this year, the Victims of Crimes grant, which is our VOCA grant, we saw a 12% increase. Our DCFS grant, we saw a 2% increase. Our Violent Crime Victim Assistant grant stayed the same. And then, as I mentioned during the meeting, we will be receiving that coronavirus emergency supplemental funding, which will help with some of those expenses that are not covered by grants. That's what we find with all of these grants is it's great for grant money, but a lot of that has restricted funds. So that grant will be able to help in some of those areas. Our revenue also consists of transfer from other funds and then also contributions. So when you look at our budget, overall, there is a decrease in expenses in the 600 and 700 line items. There's a couple areas where there is an increase. And the reason for that would be we saw an increase in the membership costs for our statewide chapter. The equipment maintenance contract was put in there. This is grant funded, but it is our warranty for our recording equipment that we use every day here at the center. And then also the purchase of another computer for our therapist. That's going to be grant funded though. This, I would love to provide you guys a tour of our center, but if you can't make it over here, this will just kind of show you, these are 2 waiting areas here in McLean County. As you can see, we just try to make them as comfortable. We want it to be more like a living room type setting when kids come to our door. So these are 2 areas where families either wait for the interview to start or areas where they might meet with DCFS or law enforcement to talk about next steps after a forensic interview. The first photo there is our interview room. So that is where a forensic interview takes place. The child will sit in that large brown chair and the interviewer is on the couch. The other photo is that of our therapy wing. So we have a full therapy wing. We have one full-time therapist and a part-time therapist that do therapy in their offices, but that's another waiting area for families. The next is our medical room. So we have a fully functioning medical room where kids could be able to come here and get full sex assault exams conducted at our facility. We also have what we call our CAC store. Every item in there is new and every item has been donated by the community and will be returned back into our community. So we get a lot of these donations around Christmas time and these are basic need items. So shampoo, conditioner, deodorant, things like that where families are going through a hard time, they can reach out and we can say, hey, feel free to come shop our store. So that just explains a little bit what we do at the CAC. And then transitioning into the CASA program, the purpose of the CASA program, it's a volunteer-based program. They are there to advocate for the best interests of the child medically, personally, educationally, and legally. In 2019, the CASA program served 127 children with 71 CASA volunteers. The CASA program is also accredited by National CASA. Our revenue sources for CASA, again, the majority is from grants. The only grant that we have not gotten approval for at this time is the Victims of Crime grant. That rewrite just came out on Monday. So we have a month to get that in for 2021, but we anticipate being fully funded again this year, the same that we were in years past. Our Violent Crime Victim Assistant grant remained the same. The Illinois CASA grant, we did see a decrease, about 30% this year, but we do plan to write in that decrease into the VOCA grant. And then, like I mentioned before, the coronavirus emergency supplemental funding, which we will be using primarily for 2021. We also receive funding from the Child Protection Network and then contributions, so community donations that just come in. Again, you're going to see an overall decrease in expenses in the 600 and 700 line items. The areas that you will see an increase are in letterhead and forms. We didn't budget for anything in 2020. It's time for us to get some more brochures. And then also our software license agreement, which is our database system. It's a statewide system and a requirement for one of our grants, but at the same time, it is all grant funded. This is just a photo here, 2 photos of 2 CASA classes swearing in. One positive of COVID that has came is that we have really pushed our CASA program to become all virtual, which was not easy, including the swearing in ceremony, but it's happening, and it's a way that we can still continue to get volunteers, you know, during this difficult time. Our last sub-department is the multi-county. So like I said, that's our offices that are in Pontiac and Clinton. We provide all of the services that we provide here in McLean County at our multi-county sites, with an exception of the medical room. We refer out for that in those areas, but we do provide therapy there. We do forensic interviews, and we have fully functioning multidisciplinary teams in both of those counties. So our CAC staff travels from McLean County when we have a case in DeWitt or Livingston. They will travel there to do the interview, travel to do therapy services. Our services there are really well known and appreciated in both counties. And in 2019, we interviewed a total of 140 kids in those locations combined. So again, with the court fees, we've seen a significant and budgeted for a continued decrease in court fees in both Livingston and DeWitt County. The victim of crimes grant is an increase, as mentioned, with the McLean portion, same with the DCFS grant. We do receive the DeWitt County 708 Mental Health Board grant, and that pays for our rent and utilities for our DeWitt County site. And then we get a small amount of funding from United Way of Livingston County, but we saw a little bit of a decrease this year, as with anybody. We do rely on our contributions. We receive a large contribution from Livingston County for our services that we provide there, and they're very supportive of what we do. Again, there was a decrease. You'll see in all 3 budgets, the main area where there was a decrease in expenses is in schooling and conferencing. One, we had to figure out where to make up that money. And 2, I don't anticipate that there will be any travel, but that is one area that I feel is very important for our staff, you know, to have continued education. And so my hope is to be able to find some resources to get that back into place going into 2022. But again, the increase in the lines for the equipment maintenance contract, we saw a small increase in our office rental in DeWitt County, and then an electric expense. So that first photo is just the waiting area in DeWitt County. Our satellite offices are much smaller than McLean County, but they you know, serve their purpose. So that's the waiting area there. And then those are just pinwheels that we put out in Livingston County. Even though we are the McLean County Children's Advocacy Center, like I said, we really try to, you know, serve that community and be a part of that community in any way that we can. Other funding opportunities, I have here just the National Children's Alliance, our statewide chapter, CACI. They are constantly coming out with grants. And that is something that me and my team plan to take full advantage of. I guess it's important to understand, though, with grants come expenses. Of course, we'd love to be able to find that unrestricted funding, but for right now, you know, we are looking at just maintaining, or if we can bring additional programs, we will do that. And if there's a grant out there, then we're going to go for it and see what we can do with it. And the same goes for Illinois CASA and the National CASA program. So I couldn't not take advantage of a PowerPoint presentation without Jock. So this is Jock. He is our facility dog. He's sitting at my feet right now wondering when he's going to have dinner, but he is definitely part of our team. He works well with the kids. He's great for the CAC staff and our MDT partners. So I thank you guys for your time, and I'm happy to answer any questions that you might have.
Thank you very much for that PowerPoint presentation. My first question, and this is just a quick factual inquiry. Am I remembering right that the number of children you treated, the number of children who came in to your offices in DeWitt and Livingston combined was almost equal or maybe a little greater than the number that came in McLean County? 140 combined DeWitt and Livingston, and I think it was 142 or 136, something like that.
It was actually 336 last year in McLean County.
Okay.
This year, so far, we have almost surpassed our numbers for Livingston and DeWitt combined. But McLean County, we have just not seen that increase. But no, last year was a pretty heavy year with 336 kids.
Yeah. Member Solder, I believe you had a question. You do.
Thank you. I believe you weren't able to hold your annual Blue Kids event in April as you normally do, but I do think you had some online event. Can you tell me, was it successful? How much of a drop in revenue was there on that? Just give me a little bit of the highlights.
I believe, Mr. Solner, you're referencing the Child Protection Network, who is a fundraising board who provides funds to the Children's Advocacy Center and CASA program. So we are really two separate entities right now, but they do provide us with funding. We just do not participate in their fundraising as far as being county employees. So I can't necessarily speak to where they are as far as the impact of this past year.
Questions for members of the committee for Ms. Evans, and I will perhaps suggest questions on any of the three programs that are elements of this budget. If you have a question about a specific item, would you please direct us to the account number so that we can follow along. Member Schaefer.
Yeah, a couple meetings ago, you had mentioned that you were expecting to see an increase in kids coming in, probably when kids go back to school. And where would that be reflected in the budget here? If for some reason there's like like we've had a spike in COVID, if you had a really huge spike in kids coming in and having to be interviewed and things like that, where would that show up in the budget for, to look for, if we're looking forward, and that kind of thing?
At this point, it really wouldn't. We have, when I say an increase, that means an increase in children coming into have forensic interviews take place. At this point, we have multiple staff that are cross-trained. For example, I'm a trained forensic interviewer. While that's not my primary job, I can go in and interview at any time and conduct that. So when we see an increase in cases, it's really a matter of we want to get these kids in as soon as possible. And by having, multiple staff members cross-trained in different areas, we're able to do that and hit all of our counties. If we would have interviews that would be needed in all three counties in one day, we have the staff at this point that's capable to meet that need. So I don't necessarily see where there will be a budget a hit to our budget because our services are going to be provided just like they have since the beginning of COVID, regardless of what's going on.
Other questions from members of the committee for Ms. Evans? I do have one myself. This has to do with the CASA program, Ms. Evans. It is account number 0503.0001, full-time employee salaries, and also fringe benefits a little further down, the fringe benefits total. I noticed that the figures went up for fiscal 21 from fiscal 20, 15% for salaries, 26% for fringe benefits. Is that a reflection of simply additional employees?
We did have one addition that came in right at the end of the year last year. Our program director, her classification was changed right at the beginning of January 1. That might be where that increase is from.
the figures for 21 went up noticeably, not out of line, given increases in the numbers of employees. That's all I'm asking about. Does that account for it?
Yes.
Yes, it does.
Okay. Thanks to both of you. All right. That was the only question that I had that hasn't already come up. Other questions from members of the committee? Hearing none, I believe then that we are ready to vote to send forward the CAC budget to the next step. Ms. Morlock, would you call the roll?
Member Schaefer,
Yes.
Member Went,
Yes.
Member Bloomfield,
Yes.
Member Soldner,
Yes.
Chairman Gordon.
Yes. Thank you very much, Ms. Evans. This will move forward to the next step.
Thank you all for your time. Have a good evening.
And you too. Thank you. Same to you. I'd like to call back to the table, as it were, Circuit Clerk Don Everhart. And we will be taking up item H1D, D1 through 6. And we will begin. This is a request approval of the fiscal year 2021 recommended budget for the Circuit Clerk Department 0015. Do we have a motion? Moved by Member Solder, seconded by Member Bloomfield. We will take these one at a time, starting with H1D1. Circuit Clerk Department, the General Fund 0001, Circuit Clerk Department 0015, Administrative Services Program 0011, Criminal Cases Program 0012, and Civil Cases Program 0013. These are found on pages 196 through 201 in our packet. Mr. Everhart, is there any particular item, or are there any particular items that you would like to call our attention to as the discussion gets underway?
Not at this point, but I do have a PowerPoint presentation that may help.
I think we can go ahead with that.
Okay.
Please.
Now that will cover, you tell me how far you want to go into this, because it does cover all the D1, 2, 3, 4, and 5.
That is fine.
I'm sorry, go ahead, sir. I'm sorry.
Oh, I was just going to say that is fine. Please proceed.
All right. Well, for those of you who may or may not know, the circuit clerk is the official keeper of the court record. It's the main duty. And other duties would be gathering and reporting statistical data to various law enforcement agencies and state government bodies, such as the dispositions of criminal cases, also to appropriate agencies, as well as dispersing the fines, fees, and costs collected as a result of court actions. And our office is heavily regulated by court rules, court orders, and state statutes. Now, my staffing, I've got around 70 plus employees. That varies depending on how I'm running with my part-time courtroom clerks. We've broken down into administration, which is, of course, the circuit clerk, chief deputy administrative assistant. I have courtroom clerks who represent me in the courtroom. We have 13 courtrooms. Obviously, I cannot be in those courtrooms, so I have to have those who represent me by statute. We have an appeals division, which handles preparation of the record of appeal. Family division, which deals with family matters, adoptions, dissolutions, juvenile abuse and neglect, juvenile delinquents, and orders of protection. General civil division deals with chancery, law, matters over 50,000 or more. Mental health, eminent domain, miscellaneous remedies, which certain things like name changes and so forth. Municipal corporation, probate, which deals with guardianships and so forth, and tax cases, sales of for tax sales. Small claims division deals with law magistrate claims of 50,000 or less, contracts and so forth, arbitration and small claims. Traffic division deals with DUIs, traffic ordinance and conservation violations, and civil law violations, which are cannabis violations of less than 10 grams or less. Those are down. We obviously, with this new law, those are down to about 27 this year. Criminal division is felony, misdemeanor, and contempt of court. We have a county division that handles all the funds coming in and dispersing those, and then records management, which we are keeper of the court record, also of exhibits admitted in trials, and also dealing with filming and destruction of court records as approved. You go next, please. Most of our funds in the general fund will come from criminal cases and civil cases, from case fees, county fines, street value fines, and court system fees, and civil case fees. Now, it was rather complicated. It is a complex office. It was further complicated with the various laws and the various fines and fees and costs and other issues where the court would call, or state Illinois legislators would create what was called a fee, but then later the appellate court would come back and say, no, it's not a fee, it's a fine. And so it got rather complicated. And it was just across the board, across the state, on how each county handled these various assessments. So there was a task force created about 4 or 5 years ago, and the end result was a revamping of the assessment of fees, which is called the Criminal and Traffic Assessment Act, which we can move forward, please. In that, it normalized across 102 counties what can be assessed in for criminal and quasi-criminal cases. And so they created 13 assessment schedules. This act also took it away from the clerk's responsibility assessing these costs, these fees, and put it into the court. So there are now 13 schedules to work with the court. And you can see there's felonies, there's DUIs, felony drug, felony sex offenses, and so forth. And you get into quasi-criminal when you're dealing with traffic, minor and major, and overweights and so forth, conservation. Of all these 13 schedules, only one of these does not need local court assessment, and that's Schedule 12, which is disposition of minor traffic tickets under Supreme Court Rule 529. That would be speeding and so forth, where it's not required a court appearance. So these are where most of our fees are coming now, from these schedules. Now, we still have cases that were prior to July 1st that do have fees coming in from various other statutes that exist at the time that were scheduled by that, but those will be tapering off over the years. Next, please. I'm going to give you a couple examples of schedules where the court, if they did assess Schedule 1 for a felony offense, these are just the fees. There's not the fine. This is the fee, and that would be to collect $549 if the court assesses Schedule 1. And it shows here what the county's portion would be and how that's broken down. Now, this is consistent across 102 counties. Nothing variable here. And then you see what portion goes to the state treasurer and how that's divided. Any questions on this? Next, please. And this is Schedule 12. This is the one where if I get a traffic ticket or you get a traffic ticket, doesn't require court appearances, minor traffic violation. You can plea online or come into our office and plea and pay $164. You receive a conviction, but it's done. And this just shows you how the county's portion, the state's portion, and the arresting agency's portion. Once again, these are consistent throughout the state. Along with this Criminal Traffic Assessment Act was the creation of assessment waivers. Now, what I'm going to talk about is just for criminal waivers. And so they did create the ability for the court to waive these fees from these assessment schedules. And pursuant to the law, upon the application of a defendant, after the commencement of an action, but no later than 30 days after the sentencing, if the court finds the applicant is an indigent person, then there's a 100% waiver. If they're not indigent and they do fall in within these parameters for 75, 50, and 25%, then the court shall grant a partial assessment of waivers of those fees. This law, this Criminal Trafficking Assessment Act, had for stated for July 1st, 2019 through December 31st, 2019 for each county to track these assessments and waivers and so forth. And this is a small portion of this reporting, but it does show waivers that were granted, the number of waivers that were granted in that time frame for criminal cases. You can see the shaded areas for the lower traffic cases. Well, that's because the law does not include violations of the Illinois Criminal Vehicle Code when it comes to waivers. However, when you get into the felony and misdemeanor side, you can see that in that time frame, there were 74 100% waivers on felony cases, none on DUI, but there was 41 on felony sex and so forth. 64 for misdemeanor, and I can't see my right now, but anyway, you can see that those are waivers that were granted pursuant to this law. Next, please. This is a schedule that came from the Commission of Access to Justice Supreme Court showing the different poverty levels and how they would affect with the criminal assessment waivers and the civil fee waivers that I'll get to in here in a moment. But it does deal with, each of those does have different levels of income parameters. For example, on a criminal side, a 25% waiver cannot exceed 400%, but on a civil side, 25% waiver, your income cannot exceed 200% of the federal poverty level. Next, please. Now we're talking about civil fees, where we're getting those who under this also the Clerk of the Courts Act, court clerk fees was impacted by the Criminal Traffic Assessment Act. But this is a rather lengthy act, and I just broke down the paragraphs showing you where some of these civil fees will come from. For example, paragraph A would be dealing with civil fees, the filing for cases, pleadings, and so forth. Paragraph B deals with appearance fees. There's dealing with debt collection fees, mailing fees, certified copy fees, and so forth, expungement fees, and so forth. So it does cover all those civil sides. Next, please. On this Criminal Traffic Assessment Act, they did create 4 filing fee schedules for civil case filings. So you initiate a case, there are 4 different fee schedules, 1, 2, 3, 4. 4 is one where there is no fee associated with certain case types like adoption, mental health, and so forth. This particular one, I gave you an example of A. Schedule 1 would be dealing with the law cases, chancery cases, and so forth. And in this particular range, or fee schedules, they set maximums, and therefore the county had to then go in and set whatever maximum they would do, and the court or the county did set the maximums to what was parameters allowed for the county. And this shows you how those would be broken and where those funds would go. Next, please. Again, you get into the waivers for the civil side. It's pretty much a similar way, but this is not dealing. This is dealing with costs for filing fees and for appearance fees. And once again, if you fit in as an indigent, find you an indigent, and there's 100% waiver, and then there's partial waivers based on your income if you're not. And here we saw in that reporting period, we in that from July to December, we can see that there were 2 25% waivers, 4 50% waivers, 6 75% waivers, and 261 100% waivers, which was about $69,581 in fees waived, filing fees and appearance fees altogether. Any questions so far? General fund expenses are typical, 500 line items for salaries, 600 line items for supplies, 700 line items, services, and capital assessments. If you look at my schedule, pretty much all those are for 2021 are down from 2020 as far as budgeting for. Next, please. Now we're dealing with the special funds where circuit clerk operations and administration, Fund 138, Fund 140 court automation, 142 document storage, 143 child support collections, 156, which is the Illinois Department of Public Aid Title 4D project, and 174, which is electronic citation fund. Next, please. These are all statutorily created. Clerk operations fund, administration fund, it used to be coming from different other, there were quite a few statutes where these funds would come from. Now it's broken down into one basically, and it's through the assessment schedules. So now we're getting this money through the assessment schedules, and this money is used to defray the expenses incurred for collection and disbursement of various assessment schedules. And I can go into more of that later, but next, please. These are where we'll be using those funds for supplies, services, and capital assessments, anything that we can relate it to helping us collect and disperse the fines and fees and so forth. For example, calculators or printing checks that we use to pay and reimburse and so forth for disbursement of these funds. Next, please. Court automation fund is used to defray the expense borne by the county of establishing and maintaining automated record keeping system. And that's what we use for Aegis, to update it, to make our annual support payments with that, or to update our computers. This year, I had budgeted quite a bit of money to replace all the computers in this office, which typically I'll do about every 3 years because the biggest failures are hard drives. So this year, even though I budgeted for it, I ended up doing some investigation and found out I could purchase solid state drives for all these computers and replace them and get an extended life on those. And they cost me for all the computers less than $5,000. So I was able to save quite a bit this year and extend that out. But that's what money was used for. Next, please. Again, court automation, supplies, capital investments like computers and services. Next, please. Document storage fund is to defray the expense for establishing and maintaining a document storage system and converting our records to electronic and microfilm. And we do this through regular record destruction. So even though we are, let me back up here, older records that are not being submitted electronically are not imaged. So when we reach the age of retention, we submit to the court, AOIC, for permission to destroy those records and then film and destroy, I should say. And once that's approved, then we go use this money to do so. Now, moving into e-filing, we do receive these documents electronically. So those will be sitting there on a server, and we don't have to microfilm those right away. However, at some point in time, unless the court changes this, when those electronic documents are moved out of active service and moved into an archive position for those records that are aged out, and we need to move them into archive position because of storage, then those records that are archived, those electronic images would have to be microfilmed, and their money there would be used from here. Any questions? And then again, those are the document expenses. Next, please. Child support collections. This is not a court fee. This is a fee that the court or the clerk can charge for assisting in maintaining records for the state of Illinois' kids system. So we can collect, the clerks can collect an annual fee of up to $36 from the person making payment for maintaining child support records and the processing of support orders to the state of Illinois' kids system. Next, and then we use those fees for salaries, one of the individuals in my office, and for printing the invoices and the postage to mail those. Then there's the Title 4D project, the only Department of Public Aid. This is an intergovernmental agreement that I bring every so often, every 2 or 3 years. It's been going on for quite a few years. It's between the Illinois Department of Healthcare and Family Services and the McLean County Circuit Clerk. And this gives you just a brief overview or some of the things in the contract, but it pretty much is concerning child support payments data to the SDU, which is the State Disbursement Unit. I couldn't think of that. Anyway, next, please. In that agreement, the clerk will receive $21 per Title 4D child support order entered into the state's child support system, and we have an estimated allowance of receiving around $18,543 this year. That could go up, but that was estimated on the year before. Any questions on that? The expenses are related to salaries to this. There's no other expenses out of that. Then we have the Electronic Citation Fund. That is for establishing and maintaining electronic citations. Now, there are some agencies that are doing electronic citations, but they're presenting to us in paper format still because Aegis is not equipped to handle electronic citations in the format of imaging and so forth. And at this point, it's up in the air how the court or AOIC is going to continue to maintain those. At some point, they may have, there's been talk that they may have those bashed in through an EFM or maintain it through individual suppliers like we're doing now. I don't know at this point, but we do have a fund there, but no expenses have been occurred out of that. This shows you where those that fund's coming from. You'll see those schedules 5, 6 through 13. Each of those, when they're assessed, $8 is assessed to that citation fund. And that would be also money used if we were able to enhance or replace Aegis. So, any questions? Okay. Did I answer hopefully some questions?
Well, thank you for the information. I thought I knew something about the circuit clerk's office, and I think I did, but I learned a fair piece more this time around. And I appreciate that, Mr. Everhart. Are there questions, first of all, from members of the committee regarding Mr. Everhart's presentation? Member Schaefer, please.
Well, it's kind of part of the presentation and part of the budget, so I don't know if you want me to ask it now or how you want to do this.
You can launch.
Okay, thank you. On the mouthful that I can't ever remember what the CTAA, is that what it's called? Yeah. The
Criminal Traffic Assessment Act.
Right. And if I remember correctly, that had an end date of like at the end of this year, that it was only like an 18-month kind of thing. And then it was going to end. And I don't know if the legislature then changed that, because I knew that it was supposed to be, when it was written, it was supposed to be budget neutral. Has it been budget neutral? And how is that looking at the 2021 budget? Because on one of your slides you had, it expires on December 31st of 2021. And I can't remember how those are related and how that's affecting our budgeting process here.
Okay. Well, I was a slip on I should have corrected that for 2021. First of all, it was original sunset date, so to speak, would have been January 1st of 2021. However, that was recently extended out to January 1st of 2022. There's not hearing anything about this being changed. I think they're pretty much invested in this. Obviously, we've not seen we haven't seen any legislation coming out since March of this year, at least affecting the court or the clerk's office, I should say, other than some Supreme Court rules that have helped assist or dealing with COVID situation. So, but yes, this Criminal Traffic Assessment Act has been extended out to January 1st, 2022. As far as looking at the budget, boy, it's tough. I mean, it was tough enough that in that span to look at from July 1st to December to try to point out to what we think could be for 2021. But then you bring COVID into the mix of this. And it is just, everything's down. Our traffic cases are down, which last year we averaged about 1,700 cases a month. We're right now averaging about 1,400. Small claims cases are down. Pretty much everything's down, other than we did see an increase in domestic violence and so forth. But at this point, I can't tell you how this is going to play out. Especially, I don't know, looking at the waivers. Other than looking at that report that we spent months of labor. I mean, man hours, months of man hours creating that report for that 6-month window. Just to get a tiny glimpse, which I don't think is a good, very accurate glimpse. I think we need to go out years just to get a really good impact on what this change is going to have. Did I answer your question?
Kind of, sort of. So it's not really been revenue neutral, but because of COVID, it's kind of throwing a bigger monkey wrench into the works than we had already had.
Exactly.
Other questions for Mr. Everhart from members of the committee? I've got a few, if there are no questions from other members of the committee. I have just a few having to do with some percentage increases that I noticed, and at least one percentage decrease. In subdepartment 0011 administrative services, and this is on page 196 in our committee packet, there were 3 lines that I noticed, one with an increase and 2 with decreases. The 0516.001 occasional seasonal employees with a 14% increase between the 2020 amended budget and this year's proposed amount from the county administrator. That was a 14% increase. And then there were 2 lines in supplies, and I think you made reference to at least one of them. 0620.0001, and then a little further down 0630.0001 with double-digit decreases. I'm just curious what accounts for those.
Well, on a 516 double or 0001 occasional seasonal, that's my part-time courtroom clerks, and that increase I'm sure is coming from that mandate on increasing the minimum wage increase, which right now is $10. It was 9 something and they increased to $10 in July, and it's going to go up to 11, I believe, in January this 2021.
Yeah, I think that's right.
As far as the operational supplies and the postage, you said 630.001 and 620.001?
That is correct, yes, sir.
We're trying to move some things over into our special funds, special funds where we can use those.
Okay. Thank you for that information. On page 200 in our packets I think we all have the same packet numbers. I hope so. But this is on page 200, subdepartment 0013 civil cases. The first budget line, civil fees 0410.0021. I don't remember for certain if you referred to this in your PowerPoint presentation, but the civil fees are up. I realize that the amended budget amount for 2020 didn't begin to meet the actual amount through mid-September, so that I can understand asking for an increase. But what went into that request?
Okay, I don't have the pages. You're talking about under general fund, under criminal or civil cases.
Civil cases, it's 0410.0021 civil fees.
Yes, well, This is before COVID came into play.
And this is on the revenue side, so.
This new assessment schedule, I'm sorry.
This is on the revenue side, and I was just interested in the 200% increase. That struck me as a little bit out of the ordinary. I'm just curious about it.
Well, well, hold on a second here. I do know that the fee schedule was bringing in, we just saw an increase in those fees. And it was, I'd have to get back with you on that one.
Chairman Gordon,
go
Assistant
ahead.
County Administrator Taylor would like to address the committee if she may. I think that's
That would be fine. That way,
otherwise.
Mr. Everhart doesn't have to get back to us.
Well, I'd have to go look at my notes, and I don't have access to those
Sure.
notes.
So I
Ms.
just
Taylor,
recently,
please.
Thank you, Chairman Gordon. I just recently reviewed my notes from our meeting with Mr. Everhart earlier this year. And we noted that we made adjustments last year to this line item in anticipation of CTAA. And we found that we overestimated the decrease. And so we were trending higher than anticipated from 2019. So we bumped it back up a little bit based on increased trends.
Thank you, Ms. Taylor. I had forgotten. I didn't have those notes, so.
Sure.
If that were represented graphically, it would be kind of U-shaped
Yes.
with things declining and then an uptick, and a fairly significant uptick that warranted this kind of an increase in the projected revenues.
Well, forgive me for forgetting that conversation, and thank you,
That's
Ms.
fine.
Taylor, for reading those notes. But we did see with that new Criminal Traffic Assessment Act, there were so many fees that were repealed and then revamped everything. So when I looked at 2020, obviously way underestimated, potentially underestimated what that would bring in, and saw that tick going up. And so I believe we would have reached that if it hadn't been COVID for 2021. I don't know where we're going to go 2020, but right now we're at 4,000, so almost close to doubling what we did last year. So
Right. I had noticed that too. Thank you for that. The
better
other,
underestimate than overestimate, I guess.
and on balance, we're equal. My other two questions have to do with the automation fund, Fund 0014. In the services line, this is 0706.001, the contract services. There was a fairly substantial increase. The actual amount to date already has exceeded the amended budget, and the request is almost exactly double what the amount to date is. It's 138% over last year's proposal. You made a note in terms of contract services. That was the Justice Information System project?
Yes, sir. Absolutely. Yes, sir.
Yeah, okay. You had referred to that as part of your discussion on the PowerPoint.
Yes.
You're suggesting that the amount shown may turn out to be higher. I'm sorry, what you may end up with as the contract services expenditure in this line may be double what is shown in the budget?
For this year?
Yeah, no, for 21.
2021. Well, we are looking where we're anticipating, I guess is how we would say, we wanted to have some buffer there as we're moving forward through this process of seeking out a case management system.
All right.
And so we were guesstimating, I say we, the court and I, were guesstimating what we thought might be a figure that for this.
Okay, and there,
Yes, it is related to that.
yeah, and there obviously still may be some uncertainty involved. There is in any budget, in any budget line.
Exactly.
And this one is perhaps more so because of the needs that may come up.
Correct.
My last question is, it's on the next page in our packet. It's a budget line, it's account line 0793.0001 travel expense. And I'm sorry, it's not that, it's right below that. It's the services totals that are up, and that may be a reflection of what we've already talked about. The actual,
I'm sorry, service totals for the court automation.
yes, sir. Yeah.
That would be dealing with what we just spoke about.
That's okay. What we just said, that looked like it to me. I appreciate your responsiveness, and I thank you for the information. That's all I have. Are there other questions for Mr. Everhart now from other members of the committee? You can take a moment if you need it. Any other questions or concerns, comments, discussion? Hearing none. Are we then ready to vote on item H1D -1 through 6? If we are, Ms. Morlock, will you please call the roll?
Member Schaefer,
Yes.
Member Went,
Yes.
Member Bloomfield,
Yes.
Member Soldner,
Yes.
Chairman Gordon.
Yes. Mr. Everhart, thank you very much. The PowerPoint was very informative to me, and I'm sure to others, and we appreciate your answers to the questions we've raised. Thank you very kindly. And we
Thank you all.
appreciate Ms. Taylor's contribution to that conversation too. It helped smooth things out.
All right,
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Have a good evening.
You too. We come now to item H1E. Request approval of the fiscal year 2021 recommended budget for the Court Services Department 0022, including E1, found on pages 215 through 228 in our packets, and E2, found on pages 229 through 231. These have to do with the Court Services Department, Juvenile Detention Program, Court Services Program, Pretrial Program, Adult Redeploy, Veterans Court. And that's under E1, and under E2, the Adult Probation Services Fund, Court Services Department, and Probation Supervision Program. Do I have a motion to approve? Moved by Member Bloomfield, seconded by Member Soldner. We'll begin with Mr. Donovan on H1E1, the set that includes General Fund, Court Services Department, and so on. Are there questions, first of all, for Mr. Is there any information that you would care to highlight in that larger of the two sections of your proposed budget?
No, I do also have a PowerPoint. It's a very short one. If you want to, well, or Jason can go first, maybe. If you want to go out of order,
I'm fine with that. We'll cover the PowerPoint in whichever order you care to take it, Mr.
Okay,
Chad.
I think they had the detention center one queued up first, so if you want to, we can move with that.
Okay, Mr. Tabb, welcome, and welcome again, and let's have that PowerPoint.
Good evening. I will run through this. I highlighted the ones where there was information where a line item didn't change or was increased. The rest of them were all decreased, as you can see throughout. General information, it's moving awfully quickly. I don't have control over it. Some of you may or may not know we're a 26-bed facility. We house males and females ages 10 through their 21st birthday. Our ultimate goal is to provide them a safe, secure environment to get them ready for the next step we can get into more detail with any of those things. Anybody has questions? And I do welcome people to come take a tour if you haven't been through here. Even in the COVID situation, we can make that happen. We do have a full PowerPoint with pictures that we can send out as well. But our goal is to make sure that we're protecting these kids while they're here and then protecting the public from whatever crime they've been convicted of or are being accused of at the time if they're deemed not to be fit to be in society at that point. So next slide, please. As I stated, we are a short-term facility. We house kids for the 11th Judicial Circuit and any other circuit that does not have a detention facility. We will help anybody throughout the state with regards to detaining kids. Next, please. These are the line items that we either left the same or had a slight increase in. Drug testing chemicals, we pay a portion to court services for the bulk quick test cups that they have. So that number will remain the same. We do those on all kids that are coming in that aren't on probation or parole. That helps with their case management. They may have a drug problem more so than a delinquency problem. So that line item stayed the same. Contract services, we do show videos and movies as part of our education. So we have a contract with Swank Motion Pictures that allows us to show those videos. We also offer movie night on Fridays and Saturdays for the kids that are here that are compliant with all the programming and all the things they're asked to do. So that line item, the budget will stay the same for that one. I believe it's $408. The contract is $407. That will not have an increase going into 2021 or 2022. So that one will remain the same. Notary, we keep a notary here. We do background checks. We do sign off on other things, and we also assist the nursing home when they need a notary. We do need to renew one of them and add an additional person with notary, so that line item will stay the same as well. Vehicle maintenance and repair, the deductible for our 2 vans is $700, so that's where it sits. That one will remain the same. Radio communications, we have a contract with Supreme, about $275 a month. We also added 3 new court radios through a system called Starcom for our transport. Those are $150 per radio for the service. So the new total going into 2021 is going to be just under $3,800. So we did ask for an increase in that line. Equipment rental, we added an additional copier under the current contract that provides the other copiers. So the 2 of those combined is going to be an annual cost of just over $1,000. That one was not budgeted into 2020. So there is going to be an overage in that line for 2020, but moving forward into 2021, we will have that total amount covered. I included these. These are capital improvement. These are going to be coming out of facilities management, but I wanted to highlight some of the things that we're looking at doing moving forward into 2021. They're looking to replace the chiller. We've had 15 years of poor quality air control, whether it's too hot, too cold, air conditioners down. So we are looking at replacing the entire system going into 2021. At the cost of roughly $120,000. I believe they were talking about keeping the old system on site as a backup, but I'm not sure what their total goal is for that. But we're looking forward to having workable temperatures and livable temperatures for the kids here. It gets a little hot in the summer times when it's down. The water conditioning system is going to be looked at as well. It's causing the pipes to corrode. It's causing breakdowns in all of the plumbing. It's causing toilets not to work, water fountains not to work. So they're going to put in a conditioning system to take out the hard water. That's also for 2021. I believe all these are for 2021 coming out of facilities. We have a driveway that's completely deteriorated going down to the back of the building. That new cost is going to be significantly lower. I believe it's going to be budgeted for $50,000. They changed the way in which they're going to repair that and replace that. So that'll be a $50,000 cost going into next year, but it's deteriorated over the 20+ years that we've been here, and the salt that they're using for snow removal, snow and ice removal, has taken pretty good toll on that. Next, please. That's just a picture of the unit. I wanted to keep up with some of the other presenters and kind of give you an idea of what the living areas look like. Next, please. Other capital improvement, this one actually started yesterday. We were able to get the funding for new cameras throughout the facility. We were in desperate need of cameras, according to the Department of Juvenile Justice, and for the PREA guidelines, we needed to be better equipped in order to keep an eye on everything going on in the facility, be able to record those incidents, make sure everything is on the up and up. They started installation yesterday. They were out here again today. We're working hand in hand with them to run new lines, new equipment, new video feed, a new rack for everything to come into, making sure that we're going to go from 16 cameras to probably 45 when it's all said and done throughout the facility in the exterior. So we're excited about that one. Look at one of the kids' rooms. And then I put in area of improvement, things that we would like to do moving forward. We received a grant, I believe it was in 2019, for a kitchen upgrade to get us back in compliance. We have all the equipment stored in the basement garage right now. I'm working with facilities to find time to do the installation of that. It's going to be a pretty big project, taking out all the old cabinets and putting the new ones in. And we were able to get a new dish sanitizer through that grant as well. So we're looking to upgrade the kitchen as soon as facilities has time. The control panel, this goes along with the camera upgrades. The system's from '93. The control panel doesn't always work properly. The doors do not always secure properly. We actually had a representative from the lock company out today testing them. They don't know what the problem is at this point other than old equipment. We're going to get those people and the people from Simplex, who provides our current system, together and have them discuss what we can do as far as an upgrade and what the cost would be moving forward. That's going to be a big one. The freezer mechanicals, again, most of that is 25 years old. It sits on top of the facility. It fails repeatedly throughout the summer. We have to then, we've been very fortunate working with the nursing home, put our frozen goods in their freezer, or taking our stuff down to the new jail, which worked out really well earlier this year. We would like to get that replaced. Overtime, graffiti, scratches. The kids are in the rooms, they're bored. They're doing damage to the windowsills and to the door. When our population is low, as it is now, we'd like to get in and get some painting done, sand the doors down, get them painted, and the lines on the floor, and we have a JDC logo. I believe it's in the next slide. You might be able to see it. Just repainting that and resealing that floor. It's a tile floor. We've done it once or twice in the time I've been here, just to freshen that up and make it look good again. I believe that's all I have. I will answer any questions specific to my budget with attention.
Questions for Mr. Tabb from members of the committee?
Member Gordon, if I may, Chairman Gordon, I'm sorry, if I may, I just want to do a gratitude to the department heads for their thoroughness, but also balance that with the reality that we have Zoning Board of Appeals at 7 p.m. and they need the same technology that we're using. I think we're going to be fine, but I just want to do that little time check with us. Thank you.
And thank you for the heads up. We appreciate the department heads' thoroughness as well. Questions for Mr. Tabb from members of the committee? Member Solder.
Could you give me some idea on the revenue, or what do we charge people to come in from the outlying counties or from other jurisdictions? Is there a fee that we charge? Do you know what that is?
Yeah, for Circuit County, it's $97 a day. Any part of a day counts as a day. And for non-circuit counties, it's $129.
And can I ask, is that like, does that seem to be the right number? Do we need to see about charging more? Are we in line with other areas? And again, I'm just looking for ways maybe of getting you some more revenue.
We are pretty much right on right now with what other facilities are doing. Some of them offer transportation, which we do not. So that's a bonus for them if they will take kids to and from court. We looked at it over the last couple of years, and we were in fear of pricing ourselves out, because the counties that have to travel further will find a different place in between. But as far as where we need to be, we're in a pretty good spot. I would have to look and see when the last time we raised our revenue was. I know a lot of counties are spending less money for detention, and they're keeping the kids in communities, which is great. If they have community programs that they can use, I'm all for it. But when the price gets up, we'll see fewer and fewer people using our services. They will find alternatives.
Okay, thanks.
Other questions for Mr. Tabb from members of the committee? I have only one, Mr. Tabb, and it's a question about a revenue item. I'm just maybe my memory goes back too far. This is it's account line 0407.0005 probation officer's salary reimbursement. I don't have a question about the numbers so much as asking how firm, do we know how firm this number is likely to be? Because in past years, some past years, we've had substantial delays in those reimbursements coming in from the state. I gather that problem has not reared its head as much in recent years, and I'm just curious whether we can have some confidence in that projection as far as the state coming through, as far as you know.
As far as I know, I believe they are on track to reimburse 100% of the salaries. Mr. Donovan may know more than I do, but the last meeting I was in, they had full intention of reimbursing.
Very good. Thank you for that, Mr. Donovan. Anything to add on that particular point?
Oh, no, he's correct. We have, with allocation letter that came in, is 100% again this year. And we've actually increased, as you'll see in my presentation with court services. And the scheduling, that's the, down in Springfield, I don't know if that's the treasurer or who those issues are, but I know they're not as far behind as they have been, but the money's supposed to be coming, so we hope there won't be an issue at all.
We join you in that hope. Okay, thank you very much, Mr. Tabb. We appreciate it. Any other questions for Jason at this time? Very good, thank you. Mr. Donovan, over to you.
Yes, sir. Like I said, I have a very brief PowerPoint if you want to start with that, and then we do have a couple corrections on a couple of accounts to address.
Please go ahead.
Okay, you can go to the next slide. Just mentioning our mission statement, if you guys aren't aware of what it was, in a nutshell, people get put on probation on a community-based sentence. So we're expected to keep them in the community. So we do whatever we can to do so. The goal is not to catch them in trouble and lock them up. The goal is to make them citizens and keep them in the community. So we do everything we can with evidence-based program to do that. Next slide. Oversight, the probation's kind of a different animal here. We are county employees, but we're provided oversight by we work for the Supreme Court and for the Administrative Office of Illinois Courts. They provide oversight and guidance for us. Everything that we do pretty much has to have approval from them and across the street at admin when we make changes and such. So next slide, please. The AOC reimbursement present future, we were lucky enough this year there was extra money down in Springfield from the Supreme Court, and so we were able to do some negotiating and keep things on the assistant director's radar. So we've got we went from having 15 salary subsidy positions where they only get $1,000 per month from AOIC as reimbursement to 8, or we have 7. We got 8 of them changed over to fully funded, which approximately, when our math said, it's about $287,000 difference starting next year. Well, it was actually backdated to July of 2019, and we've submitted all the vouchers to start that process. So that was a big win for us in McLean County. Other revenue sources, of course, fees. We are affected by fees. Grants, I guess we jumped to one. We get supervision fees, the community service fees, one of the bigger fees we get, and probation supervision fees, and we'll talk more about that account. And then the grants that we have right now, we're servicing the Veterans Court grant through SAMHSA. We're servicing Adult Redeploy, which we've had year in and year out. And we have the BJA CAT grant, and we're seeking other grant opportunities as they come up. A grant to me is a blessing and a curse, because the amount of work you do on the grants sometimes outweighs the money you get from them. But we will continue to seek that as a source of funding when needed. And that's the extent of my PowerPoint. I believe it was 6 slides, and I think I'm done.
Thank you for that. Are there any questions, first of all, for Mr. Donovan on what he has just conveyed to us by way of information? Okay. Are there questions at this time with regard to the budget presented for court services by Mr. Donovan, separate, in addition to the questions already raised and information already presented by Mr. Tabb? Any questions from members of the committee?
We do have a couple corrections, Chairman Gordon.
Yes, sir. Please let us know what those are.
And I believe the first one would be, I think it's I don't have the pages like you do, but I think it's page 224 of your packet. It's the Adult Redeploy grant 0094,
Yes,
that
sir.
budget. And on the 0526001, we had a amount budgeted for overtime pay, which was actually part of our agreement with our project director, Liz Barnhart, who used to be employed by us. And we didn't notice, and that was left in. And so we're taking that out because she is still on board as a lightly used contractual person. So we've left some money in our general fund for that, but we don't need it here. So we're taking that $4,085 out of that line, which would then also reduce the 0599003, the Social Security contribution. It'll take it down to 6350 if somebody is writing this, if they want. And then we adjusted our contract services to balance this account to 30, which is 076001 to 31,631. And that'll make, on the second page, that'll make the 158,203 balance in expense and revenue.
And what is the account line nearest to that? I think I just lost it.
Oh, let me see. You mean to the totals there?
Yeah.
0726. Go ahead, somebody.
On page 226, the totals. The revenue and expense grand totals are there.
Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, I think I got it.
Okay, and this change in turn also impacted the 0146 adult probation services fee lines too. I thought I'd written the page number down for you guys.
Starts on page 229.
Okay, thank you. And so I needed to turn my light on. I can't hardly see. In that line, we have our net account, we have 0516001, which is the occasional seasonal employee. That's where we paid part of her money out of, and that's been zeroed out also, which then would zero out the 05990003 Social Security money also. And then I think it, and I may need Cassie's help on this one. We did talk about the 0400 unappropriated fund balance, and I can't remember what that conversation was.
Hello, everyone, if I may. Shout out and assist. So the zeroed out lines would be in the revenues. There would be a zeroed out line for miscellaneous 400.0000 unappropriated fund balance. That would be zeroed out. Then you would have the two expense lines that Mike has already mentioned in the 516 salary line and the fringe benefit line that he had mentioned. And then on page 231, you would have an expense line of 500.000, which would be your budget balance account. And we are reducing that to 8,988. And so on that same page, at the bottom of the page, you would have a revenue and an expensed grand total of 350,768. For that special fund.
That, the figure you just gave us would be in all four slots, 357.68, replacing 356.368.
Correct.
Thank you, that helps. Good to have that accurate. All right. Thank you very much. Other questions for members of the committee for Mr. Donovan? Hearing none, are we ready to vote? All right. Ms. Morlock, would you go ahead?
Member Schaefer,
Yes.
Member Wendt,
Yes.
Member Bloomfield,
Yes.
Member Soldner,
Yes.
Chairman Gordon.
Yes, sorry, I muted.
That's right, thanks.
Thank you, Mr. Donovan. That will go ahead. And we'll proceed to the next step, if you will.
All right.
Ms. Rodriguez.
Thank you, Chairman. On page 232 of your packet, you will find under items to be presented for information, our report on employment activities. There are two positions relative to or associated with the Sheriff's Department on that list, but if you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer.
Any questions for Ms. Rodriguez at this time? Hearing none, I think we're good.
Good, thank you. I can assist with some of the other items if you'd like me to, Chairman, that are to follow under 5A and B.
5A and B, please do.
Thank you, sir. So if I may, Chairman, under other business and communications, under 5A, just a friendly reminder that the rest of the department heads that are associated with your committee that did not present will do so on Monday, October 19th at 4:30 p.m. A quick thank you again to all the department heads tonight who did such an incredible job providing you with information. And that went really well, I think. Under B, our November meeting. So there is now a holiday on November 3rd. The order includes that all government buildings must be closed. And so, of course, Ms. Morlock and I and staff have to ask you to adjust as well, because normally on the first Tuesday of the month, there is a transportation committee. We had this discussion with them this morning, and then your committee at 4:30 p.m. on that first Tuesday of the month. Ms. Morlock, I believe you might have emailed committee members with some possible alternate dates and times during that first week of November so that we can adjust to this one-time holiday, which sunsets after it is completed, you should know. So, Ms. Morlock?
I did include that suggestion when I sent out the email with the packet. I suggested Monday or Wednesday at 3 p.m. That's an hour and a half until the next committee on that evening. We wouldn't be able to do it on Thursday because we already had land use during that week. Yep. But I just want to make sure that an hour and a half is what you feel you might be able to get those other ones done in. But those were my suggestions.
And while we can't control all the items for action that need to come before a committee, we will certainly in county administration try to make the most efficient agenda as possible. So with that said, Chairman, I think, we can do this a couple of ways since it's getting late ahead of the Zoning Board of Appeals meeting. If there are no objections to either date, we don't need to say a thing. We will just pick one. But if someone has a conflict right now, please go ahead and speak up, and we will adjust accordingly and try to make this work based on the existence of the November 3rd holiday.
Well, if I may, if the only matters to come up to us are budget items, considering that we have been here for just over 2 hours now, an hour and a half might be okay, but I don't want to run the risk of crowding the second of 2 budget meetings for the Health Committee, which is scheduled for 4:30. So just with that thought in mind, my thought would be to point to Wednesday, if that is equally convenient for members of the committee.
Well, if I may, I know Member Schaefer has her hand up, but I'll remind us that we also have another meeting for this committee scheduled for a different day in October.
I'm sorry, that's not the budget. True. That's
And
right.
that should be the focus of the budget. So I'm hoping that during the first week of November, we should, if at all, we may not have any budget items to discuss, or at least just a lag over from what happens on October 19th. Sorry, Member Schaefer, I apologize.
Yeah, go ahead. Go ahead, Member Schaefer.
And what I would like to add is that since there's 4 members of the Health Committee on this committee, that it would probably be more beneficial for us to just kind of do them 2 in a row from having justice, and then the same, most of the same members right after that in the next meeting. So, I mean, that way people don't kind of get messed up between what day it is in that respect. So I'm just throwing that out there as a thought too, because Member Wendt and you, Member Martin, and myself are the 4. And so I guess it's something out there.
Well, first of all, I want to thank Administrator Rodriguez for correcting my thinking that we were looking at a the budget meetings then. My calendar doesn't even say the word budget. I should have known. I think Member Schaefer's point is very valid. If Member Martin's not here to defend himself or defend against this, but Member Wendt, would you have a problem if we had those meetings back to back on the 2nd and get them both done?
Not that I know of.
Okay, okay. I'm good with that if County Administration and Member Schaefer and other members of the committee, Member Solder, Monday the 2nd is convenient for you?
Yes, that would be fine. Again, we're on Wednesday, we'll be bumping up against Finance
Yes,
Committee,
finance, yeah.
which
Okay.
again, either would be fine, but I think I would prefer Monday also.
I think we have a consensus that has emerged. Ms. Bloomfield, is that all right for you on Monday the 2nd?
At 3 p.m., I will not be able to attend. I have a job during that time.
Yes, okay, okay. Understood. Well, I hope that'll be convenient for Member Martin. I don't want to crowd any other committee meeting, but it can't be helped given what the dates are. I think we'll go with Monday, begging the indulgence of Ms. Bloomfield. And if we can settle on that, I'm ready to go.
Thank you.
All right, thank you.
That's all.
All right, we now have recommending payment of bills and transfers. Ms. Rodriguez, for some reason, I either misplaced or never printed. I thought I had printed the bills. If you can give us the prepaid totals, pending totals, or Ms. Morlock.
I believe Ms. Morlock will have to do that. She has the numbers with her and I do not. So thank you for assuming I do, but Ms. Morlock does.
Ms. Morlock, thank you for rescuing me again.
Ms. Neil Rodriguez gave me the numbers when she gave me my folder, so I have to thank her for making sure one of us had them. I have a pending and prepaid total of $578,315.26.
Is there a motion? Moved by Member Solder. Seconded by Member Bloomfield. Any questions, comments, or discussion on the bills? Hearing none, we'll proceed to the roll call, and we do have a transfer to wrap it up.
Member Schaefer,
Yes.
Member Wendt,
Yes.
Member Bloomfield,
Yes.
Member Solner,
Yes,
Chairman Gordon.
Yes.
Thank you.
We also have one transfer within court services, in the amount of $395 transferred from non-major equipment to software license. Is there a motion? Moved by Member Schaefer, seconded by Member Bloomfield. Any questions, comments, or discussion? Hearing none. Ms. Morlock, please.
Member Schaefer,
Yes.
Member Wendt,
Yes.
Member Bloomfield,
Yes.
Member Solner,
yes,
Chairman Gordon.
Yes. With many thanks to members of the committee, Ms. Rodriguez, the department heads, this meeting is adjourned.
Thank you.